Hello, all. So, I have a confession to make. I've been trying to do this video I'm about to present to you. This will be the third take. What I want to show you is I want to show you elements of the skill level and how deception figures into your skill level. And I want to show that through the Kamais, because the Kamais give us a lot of information in general. And in particular, if we look at them carefully, about levels to the game. So in order to do that, we're going to start with the general and we'll move to the more specific, where we will be eventually looking at Kosei Kamae. And there'll be reasons for that. So when we look at elements of the martial arts and we look at what a Kamae is, not simply a body posture, okay? I really always want to make this distinction. It's important. A Kamae is your whole being, okay? It's your intent, your psychological state, your physical posture, okay? It's any sort of factors in the environment, okay? It is a much more multidimensional concept that can be applied to your training. And it's very important because a Kamae, in real life, any sort of body posture, it's just like a snapshot in time. So if it doesn't reflect all those elements, then it becomes just a static, lifeless creation that doesn't do any good for training, okay? And we're going to see that that's an important distinction we'll get into. So I want to draw some parallels. When we talk about weapons and we talk about the concept of assassination, of espionage, we talk about reversing the cycle. These are skills that generally take a lot of training, because you spend a lot of time, your first maybe 10 years at least, learning how to apply yourself and make your intent very obvious, okay? That is the omote understanding, the outward, okay? The inner, the occult, that which is hidden and that which comes with levels to the game, is when you actually try to disguise that so that your intent appears to be weak or hidden and just not there for all practical purposes. So in all arts, you need skills and aspects of that. And I want to give some examples, okay? If you look at the Southeast Asian arts of Malaysia, the Kuntao, okay, the Silat, they tend to use what's called the sarong, the head covering, and they use it to trap, okay? To strangle, to subdue, okay? In order to do that a certain way, if you're very obvious about it, that's a very base level of that technique, okay? In order to do that effectively, as we will see and will work with, you have to be able to work that into what you're doing totally. Otherwise, it's just not very effective. Let's look at the Filipino arts when we talk about hiding a weapon. Again, we're not talking about just hiding a weapon behind your back, okay? We're talking about setting it up so that you're doing something with a weapon that is obviously done in such a way where it's not known and it doesn't restrict you, okay? It doesn't entangle you. If the weapon entangles you, then the weapon is a burden, okay? If I have the stick and I'm trying to hit you, okay, and you're coming at me in such a, like a wild boar, if I just try to hit you like this, and if it's maybe a hollow stick, the stick is more harm to me than good. It's not going to do anything to you, okay? Unless I find a different way to use it. But with that in mind, okay, you will see certain positions where the knife is here, okay? And the stick is here, okay? Hidden, okay? Not visible to the opponent, okay? You're fighting in such a way where that knife, okay, is not there, okay? So that the opponent doesn't see it, all right? There are all kinds of parallels. Let's look at, for example, some of the body positions in the Kamaes. If I'm in Jumanji no Kamae, okay, which we did a tape on not long ago, okay, and I have this here, okay, you don't necessarily see it. Jumanji no Kamae. The knife is hidden, okay? So doing these things in such a way where it's not visible, most arts have some semblance of that within them, okay? Famously, a couple of, I believe it was, well, I don't want to digress. We have too much material to cover. So with that being said, let's talk about Kosei Kamae, okay? Kosei is a Kamae for handling weapons of length, okay? Weapons that you might use in such a fashion, and in closing, you want to entrap the person, okay? The position is basically this. 70-30 on the legs. The hands can be in either position, but you're holding a ball, okay? Just as though when you're handling a weapon of length, you would be trying to use it this way, okay? Or you'd be trying to swing it, okay? Okay, so the Kamae outwardly, it's just a basic way of dealing with such a weapon. Now, where it gets interesting is levels to the game, okay? And when you really want to use such a weapon, first of all, this weapon is weak in this fashion, okay? Unless you have some sort of a static position, and a lot of people demo stuff like this, where you're here and you do something to the person, okay, from a standing position. However, just using the weapon out here as such, okay, it's not necessarily something that requires any great body positioning skill, okay? When you're starting to come in to attack the person, okay, if I'm doing Kosei, it becomes kind of obvious this position to entrap, okay? And a lot of people do it wrong. They come around here, and you want to come up. Now you can loop, okay? However, again, the problem remains. This is a very obvious attack, okay? So how do you actually use this, okay? How does it actually work? We're going to actually use a real weapon with this too, but we're going to demo with this. It's a little easier. Well, the same idea, okay, of hiding the weapon. If I change my Kosei to smaller circles, okay, instead of here, okay, just here. Okay, two things happen. First of all, I can fight this way, okay? I'm protecting my center line. I'm able to strike here with this, okay? So I can actually hold something here, and I can attack points, okay? I can break guard down, okay? All the things I need to do to get close enough to entangle somebody. The other aspect is what it does to the weapon position as it appears to the opponent. Now, I have to make a caveat here. You're not going to see something like you see in a perfect demo where this is hidden absolutely 100%, okay? Because we're starting from a static position. He throws a punch, yada, yada, and it looks beautiful. What you will see is instead of this weapon being an obvious point of strength to come towards my opponent, you will see that it's hidden, at least partially. And it has to do with the way I hold it, but more important, how I'm using Kosei, okay? So when I'm here, same dynamic here, small movements, okay? If you notice, I'm protecting that string, you don't see the weapon, okay? I'm still able at any time to entrap, okay? But on my movements, okay, I'm keeping this behind my arm as much as possible. And I'm able, in doing that, to attack my opponent, which means that, for example, I'm not just coming in there, stopping and wrapping. You see a lot of people do that. What I'm doing is, let's say from here, okay, in Kosei, hidden, strike, strike. Okay, once you've hit a couple times, hit, wrap. Okay, when I wrap, I'm up here. Okay, see how that makes that loop? Not here. Okay, if something comes this way and I want to wrap, okay, I might do this. I might make this taunt, okay? Strike, taunt, strike, wrap, strike, wrap. Okay? Everything is behind here, okay? Not perfectly, but much more than like this. This is a real weapon. You can't see it, but this is leaded rope, okay? This thing, I don't know if you can hear that, okay? But this is a very hard striking, okay? I might use something like this as such, okay? This is a little long to hide, but I can fold it up initially. So here, again, it's hidden, okay? Okay, you don't see it where it's coming from at any time. Strike, hit. I can throw this out, okay? I can wrap. And again, using the Kosei as a way to hide the intention, okay? The important thing here is a couple of things. I'm keeping the weapon hidden, but I'm not simply trying to stop my attack in thread. So I'm not, doing this and then whoop and boom, okay? I'm incorporating the movement and the attack into a dynamic environment. So we're fighting. Strike, strike, strike. Okay, here, strike, boom, okay? Boshiken, okay? Boom, boom, boom. As I'm hitting, okay, and striking into that, I complete what I'm doing, okay? There's no pausation, okay? Using that same small circular dynamic. You don't even see that circle if you notice, okay? And then here, this comes out. Now, it can strike, pow, okay? I can withdraw it, okay? Again, okay? So, part of centrifuge is having the dexterity to use that weapon properly and understanding that this is so important, okay? This breaks guards down in Kosei. You can fight out of Kosei this way, okay? You can do it this way, okay? Boxers do that, right? Okay? You can do it, but as long as you remember that fundamentally this is really not really so much what the Kamae is about. It's this. Okay? Pow! Those are powerful techniques going down, okay, onto the opponent. Pow! And at any time as I'm doing that, I don't have to show my weapon, okay? Until it's too late. Dexterity. let's say I'm in Jumanji. This is, now, let me digress, step back. Which of these is more dangerous? Most people say the larger weapon, okay? However, when you understand dexterity and the element of centrifuge, okay, you'll understand that a lot of what makes a weapon dangerous is not its size, but how it can be wielded. So if I'm here and I'm in Jumanji, okay, I can fight, do everything I need to do. I can even punch here. I can punch with a knife to cut, doesn't matter, but nobody has to see that knife, okay? However, when I'm here at a certain point, if I do want to use the knife, okay, if I understand and I have the handwork to do that, okay, then I'm capable. I can do that. I can very quickly get rid of it, hide it, okay? I can also very quickly change my positioning with the knife. So if I'm here and I want to cut in here, okay, maybe I start out here, boom, I'm in position with shifting the knife. So that's one of the reasons why these skills, they take a little bit more development, because you have to have the dexterity to handle the weapon, okay? You can look at almost any kata and see this principle. Let's take something simple like the Bujinkan, the Sanshin, okay? Sueno kata. This kind of, you can do it to various degrees of scale, how large the movement is, or Kano kata, okay? Now, let's look at how this ties into proper body mechanics and such subterfuge, okay? When you're doing these kamae, the reason anybody cuts this way is because of anatomy, okay? When you do a kesa cut, whatever it's called in different systems, in Japan it's kesa, you're cutting in such a way that you can more or less come right to the center sternum and xiphoid process and literally cut through the rest of the body so you can get almost a straight cleave and hit all the internal organs as such that you're going through, okay? However, it's basically a weak cut. So if you do something where you set up this way to do the cut, that's not the best way to do that. This is strong, okay? So if you want to cut this way, then you come here. If you want to cut this way, then from here, you cut here, okay? What's that got to do with what we're talking about? Well, let's watch how we practice that, okay? Here, okay? Shoulder rotation, here. I don't have to necessarily do that. I can come from here, okay? You don't see where it's coming from, okay? One, okay? One. Where's my shuto gonna go? I can come here, 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 okay? You don't see it. Same thing with the knife, okay? I'm here, okay? If I'm cutting, here, not here. As I'm coming here, I make that adjustment to my cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? Along the strong lines, okay? So you incorporate elements of biomechanics so that your training becomes consistent, okay? If I'm doing this as such, then I'm incorporating proper rotational movement on my shoulder, on my pelvic girdle, on my spine, okay? If I'm doing this just like this, or the nagash is a good example, people do this, right? No, it doesn't, that's a very base way of doing that, okay? I'm adjusting as I go back, pivoting, making my circle, okay? Just as though if I have this and I'm hiding it, pow, I can do the nagash, right? And there's my knife, okay? Or even better yet, there's my knife, okay? Pow. I'm adjusting the rotational movement into a circle. With this, I'm adjusting the rotational movement so that I'm coming from a strong position, okay? Here. And then I'm going down or whatever direction I choose, okay? Doesn't matter. So it all goes together if you're doing things with the proper understanding. And the higher skill level comes with creating deception and having the dexterity to employ things in such a way that you don't become entangled by the object, but the object is a help to you, okay? So that's a very important concept. If I have this knife out here and everybody knows I have this knife, it's very different than if I don't have to show that knife, if I'm not, nobody has given me a reason to, okay? And at this point, I can still fight. I can do all the things I need to do, okay, using proper positioning, okay, Kosei, in this case, right? Okay. See the difference? Okay. Hidden. Okay, I might never have to pick it. Now I have the option, okay? Okay, and if I have the dexterity, not only do I have the option, but for example, if I want to do something very quick, pow, 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 okay? I can make changes very quick as well, okay? Anyway, I hope this is helpful, and I'll show the movement one more time, because when you're in Kosei, okay, instead of here, we'll go this way, okay, and doing this, okay, it's here. Okay, it's a very tight angle, and you're not focusing on this. This is just helping you make your circle, but your rotation comes from your shoulder, your hip, okay, everything that's working together, okay? So when you're, pow, you're hitting with the force of your body. When you actually wield a real weapon, this is about as heavy as a Kosei Fundo, believe it or not, okay? The control is important, okay? There's Kosei, right? Here. Withdrawing, okay? Coming out, withdrawing. Coming in, withdrawing, okay? Anyway, I hope that helps. Us.